Today in the workshop we have a Ferrari GTS Turbo, which is a bit like Ferrari 308 or a bit like a Ferrari 328. In fact, it's a Ferrari 208 that has an intercooler, I think.
The bumper's different too.
The bumper might be slightly different as well. Anyway, it's called a GTS Turbo and it is a 2-litre V8 with the turbo. They made this car in Italy for a very short period of time to try and allow some of the people, some of the owners, some of the potential purchasers of this car to avoid some of the very expensive and hefty taxes that Italy were imposing on vehicles over engine size of 2 litres at the time. Their solution to this was to sleeve the engine of a 308, I believe. I mean, you've got to dig quite hard to find this information. Sleeve the engine of the 308, put smaller pistons in it to reduce the capacity down to a 2 litre, and then put a turbocharger on it to bring the power back in so that it still has some of the performance that Ferrari is known for. Anyway, doesn't have that much performance. Turbos were, I would say they weren't a new concept at the time, but for a production vehicle, especially one that was just modified to meet a certain standard, they didn't put a huge amount of effort into getting loads of performance out of it. So it's got a tiny little turbo, and they did this in order so that it's got some response, not too much turbo lag. It was still drivable, but as a result, it doesn't have a massive amount of performance. And nowadays, we have a lot more, there's been a lot of development in the last 30 years in turbo technology. And we can now provide cars like this with in this instance, a brand new Garrett unit, G25 550, which should give this car the poke and power and performance that, in my opinion, and perhaps many other people's opinion, the car should have had in the first place. And that is what we're going to do. So this has a transversely mounted V8, meaning the one side of the V is at the front of the car and the other side of the V is at the back of the car, which means in this particular arrangement the turbo is right at the back, which means we've got to make a manifold from the front, come around to the back, and a link pipe up to the both, and then join it all up into the turbo. So we've got to find a position for the turbo. It's not really that difficult to find a position for the turbo. It's going in exactly the same place as the old turbo came off, which, if you can reach over, because this is quite difficult to lower it in place nicely, is exactly nearly there. This turbo is a little bit bigger, so it is a bit of a tighter squeeze, but roughly we're going in exactly that point. Roughly exactly there. And the reason it's going there is because it fits, and there's no reason it shouldn't go there, basically. So we can't change certain things in this engine bay, well, not yet anyway, just due to the customer's current requirements. But this fuel metering system is actually almost a part of the airbox. So the airbox comes down, there's a filter in here, panel filter obviously, down the bottom, and then the air is metered, air and fuel are both metered in the same unit. And we can't really change that. Just let that bus go past. So we just want as short a gap really as possible between the outlet of the metering system and the inlet of the turbo, which is where the turbo was standard anyway. Also, the outlet of the turbo points nicely up towards the throttle body, which is here, just before the intercooler. So it all makes it nice and tidy. That is why the turbo is staying in the position that it currently is. Okay. So, as far as the manifolds are concerned, the original manifold on this car, the front side, we'll call it the front side. So waiting for their next bus to go past. We shouldn't have done this at school time. We should do this another time. Stop filming again. Or are you going to keep this bit in?
Don't know, keep going.
Okay, so this, because this is an adaptation of the Ferrari 308, as standard, they actually used the same front manifold from 308 on the 208, and they just linked it up to the back manifold, and then pointed it up towards the turbo. So this is the same as a 308, basically, all the way back here. We are going to do a little bit different to their design. They've gone for a design which would be very good for an NA engine. So they've gone for long primaries and a 4:2:1 scenario. Because we are not just reusing parts from the parts bin, we are going to make everything from scratch. We're going to do some proper turbo manifolds. So we've got 4:1, and we don't need the runners to be anywhere near as long as they are on the NA manifold. So I think the collector is going to go around about here, which gives me a nice little routing to make a fairly simple but effective turbo manifold. And then we're going to run a link pipe from there round the front in much similar manner to the original manifold. I'm going to come around here, and I was just having a little look at the space-wise with their link pipe earlier, but the link pipe is not going to be too dissimilar to what they actually had beforehand. Which brings us to the back of the engine. At the back of the engine, we have a similar sort of scenario, except that we have a differential in the way. Well, rear half of the gearbox casing differential, whatever you want to call it. The collector, I believe, is going to go somewhere in this region. So I can bring the pipes round and in there. It's not too dissimilar to the original manifold. They had longer runners running up into a collector that was a bit further up, which was potentially easier to manufacture at the time, depending on what sort of thing they were doing. So we're going to run a manifold. It's going to finish up there. Then we're going to run a pipe that comes up to the top, have a 2:1 that joins over from our link pipe, which is somewhere around here. Wait for hit another bus to go past. A wastegate is going to come off the side here. I think I haven't actually decided that yet. There might be a wastegate over here, or there might be a wastegate over there. Depends how much room I've got here for the downpipe. So the wastegate potentially is going to go back here, plumb back into the exhaust system, and then the exhaust system is going to come through into a silencer here, and then 2 tailpipes at the back. That's the plan. I'm pretty sure that is actually what's going to happen, but we'll see. So this is the rear manifold that we've made. I've decided to do this one first because it looked the trickiest. There's more things to avoid at the back here. I believe we've got around everything. Just got to weasel it in. Get it on the studs. Oh, and then push it up. It's quite hard to reach up in an engine bay that's way up in the air, or high enough for you to be able to get it with the camera, but low enough so that I can still reach things. Anyway, that is that manifold tacked up and in place. Seems to miss everything. Is a little bit close to that div fin at the top here, but there's not really a lot I can do because I can't go any further up or back with that pipe or forward. So it kind of has to be in that position. Hello, incoming video camera. Pretty good. We're going to go with that. So I've got the collector. This is a position I'm happy with. Have you got the clip of the position? Or would you like me to offer it back up again?
No, I don't know that.
You've done that bit, good. That's good. So now I'm just going to build the manifold basically from here. And I can get it to fit through this gap, which is nice. It means installing it is very easy. Normally, it's very easy, I have learnt, and much to my extreme upset at times, that you can make a manifold that looks absolutely beautiful, but then you cannot get it in or out of the engine bay without great difficulty afterwards. So definitely some pre-thought needs to go into your designs when doing things such as that. But this looks like it's going to be quite a nice manifold. We've got a firing order 1, 3, 4, 2, so 1 in there, 3 in there, 4 to there, and then 2 to there. So should look really nice, but you'll see in 1 minute. Manifold number 2, tacked up. I did actually move the collector slightly that way, just to get clear of the gear shifter. But apart from that, it's pretty much as I said. Looks like this. I don't have a spinning table. So it goes in here, like so. And fits up like that. Very nicely. So I'm going to weld them all up now. We've got a nice little time lapse for everyone. Love the time lapse. Let's do that. Film me putting this in. Just go for the ease. Slightly different to the old one, in that this one just glides onto the back of the hip, like so. It's as if it was made for the job. Just do the other one as well. Andrew wants me to show it off a little bit before I put it on. So. Thought you were doing that when you were taking pictures of it and stuff on the bench a minute ago.
This is video though.
I see.
It's a cinema.
Oh, it can be like a revolving table.
We put on the we've got that rotating welder thing, haven't we?
Yeah, could do. I'm not going to. I'm just going to fit it to the car. So I've got stuff to do. I've got things to do. This is a real business. It's not just a YouTube page doing things for the sake of YouTube. We're YouTubing it for the sake of the business. The other way around. Oh yeah, it's quite easy to fit, as you can see. I've just got to do the nuts up now. Which won't take very long, but it's probably not a fantastically exciting thing to watch. So move on to the next bit. We're going to go through there, and meet up with the other one. I've had a little bit of an upset, just a tiny little one. Well, I'm just not particularly happy with it, really. I've put the turbo in place yet again, but with more things around it, and I've discovered that this pipe I've done here is too close. It's resting on it now, so it looks closer than it actually is in real life. Probably would be all right, but we're not settling for all right. We never settle for all right, so we're going to have to cut that manifold up and make some adjustments. It's got to be perfect. Can't settle for anything less than perfection.
Unlike a t-shirt.
Unlike my t-shirt, yeah. Right. You know, old Ferraris, I don't think they get used enough to be oily, but apparently they just leak everywhere, so that's why I'm absolutely covered in oil at the minute from putting this thing up. Yeah. The joys. I noticed you've got no oil on you, Andrew.
I did lean against that oil pump earlier.
Right, joy of joys. Back to it. Well, I've modified the pipe now. I was going to show you that bit, but Andrew decided to go away for the weekend. including a Monday. So I did some work on that Monday, which didn't get filmed. The pipe now has plenty of room to get a hand in between that and the turbo, where it was a bit close before. And I also did some more work. So I've linked the front manifold to the back manifold, which involves threading pipe work all the way through here, putting a flexible joint there, and then linking round to the front. If anyone's wondering what that incredibly irritating noise is, it's our regulators on our gas bottles, which are situated just over there in this workshop, which makes filming very irritating, and also working in here irritating. If anyone knows of any big gas regulators, the ones that hold on these, just let's see if the internet has a solve for this. These are our gas bottles, which we run 2 of at any one time, both in one go. So if one runs out, still got another one. That one has run out, but this one's still got plenty of gas in it. It doesn't matter how much gas is in either of those bottles, it still makes an incredibly irritating noise, no matter what pressure or what anything. Obviously don't want to mess around with it too much. They've all got regulators on the welders as well. So this is just line pressure regulation. It doesn't matter what you do, they make a horrendous noise. If anyone has a solve for that, please let me know. Right, back to this. Whilst it's not whinging at the minute. So we've linked it around from all the way from the other side to this side, and now we're coming up, and I'm just linking to the turbo here, and that little mark there is where my wastegate cutout's going to be, which is here. Like that, and then our wastegate is going to sit off just over here, and we'll link it back in, and then 2 silencers out. That is job bashed, hopefully. Not really a lot else to say about that, apart from the positioning of this flexi. You might think, well, why don't you just put it one end or the other? What does it matter where that flexi is? Well, there's quite a long pipe from there to here. And you're going to get a lot of expansion, contraction, all sorts of bits and pieces. It's going to move around with the heat. All sorts of bits and pieces. If you put that at one end, it's going to try and soak up all of the expansion and all the vibration from one end of the pipe. It's trying to do double the work. If you put it in the middle, it's doing half of each, which you might think amounts to one full one, but it actually doesn't, because they kind of work in the same sort of manner in a linear fashion when looping around like this. I probably didn't explain that absolutely fantastically, did I, Andrew? Could it be better? What didn't you understand about that, Andrew? Because I can see you looking at me in a confused face, and I will try and make it better.
Well, I understood it. I just didn't even notice the flexi was in the middle, to be honest.
Right, okay. Well, yes, the flexi is in the middle to try and counteract both sides. They're both going to try and move away in the middle, and I'm trying not to have it at one end. Also, it means I can put it in line. Most of the movement's going to be that way, and that's an expansion joint, which means it's trying to get rid of that movement and not this movement. That's why it's in the middle. There you go. That's the most interesting thing I can think about of that pipe. Oh, it had to dart down under here so that it missed the drive shaft. It's just a pipe at the end of the day. Okay. It links one side to the other. We'll get into some more interesting things once we get this off, and I'll show you the wastegate. And there's another expansion joint here, because this is solidly mounted to the engine. This turbo is supported by this bracket here, which is mounted to the back of the diff or gearbox casing, whatever you want to call it. There's potential for some heat movement. I mean, most of that's made out of aluminium, and this is all made of steel, so it's going to contract and expand at different rates. It's going to heat up at different rates, blah, 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 blah. There'll be some vibration in there, no doubt, it being an engine from the 80s. So we decided to put another expansion joint in there. Ferrari didn't do that, but they had a lot longer tube going round into that spot, and also I had a much smaller turbo. I was producing less power, less heat, blah, 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 less things to go wrong. So now we've got more things to go wrong, we have to add extra fail-safes. I think that about round sums it up. Not too much else to say at the minute, till I get that lot together. I'm just going to take that off, weld it up, and then put it all back together again, and then I can work on the exhaust system, the actual downpipe, plumb back and rear silencers. It's in and welded. I welded it and then I put it in. And now I've got to do the back box. That's it really. I said I was going to weld it up and put it in. I'm going to do it. There's not much else to say. It hasn't changed apart from the pipes now don't leak exhaust gas anymore.
What are you going to do with the back boxes? Or box?
So I'm going to have 2 back boxes. Let me get one. One of 2, and they're going to go there, ish, there, and there. And I have a Y pipe that splits into the 2, and then 2 single tailpipes out each side. And I'll plumb the wastegate back into it. I haven't decided whether there's going to be a separate pipe to the back box. Yeah, I think there is going to be a separate pipe to it. Yes, one separate pipe to there. I kind of need to get these. We're in a bit of a chicken and egg situation now, where I need to work out where these are going to sit finally, so that I can work out a rotation for the Y pipe, and then I can work out where to do the rest of the down pipe and how that's going to fit together. So I think I'm going to start first with making a bracket that spans between these 2. These are the mounting points up in here. A bracket that spans those 2, and that's nice and square, and then I can attach the silencers to that bracket. And that holds the silencers in place, and I can build the pipework in there. So, where was I? I was working out how to do the silencer, and then the downpipe, and then the silencer. Well, it turned out I had to. Well, the best way, the way that I did do it at least, was to make the brackets for the silencer, and make the silencer in turn 2 silencers into 1 basically. So that bracket up there runs across to both sides and ties all this together, and then you've got a 2 into 1 in the middle, which diverts off to each side. And then once I had that in place, and it was quite easy to actually make the downpipe fit that. So that was the way around of doing it, rather than making the downpipe, then trying to make the silencers to fit it. So I've done all that, and we have most of a downpipe, most of a silencer, but it's all tacked up at the minute. It's not quite final. The next bit is another tricky bit. I mean, not that any of it has been particularly straightforward, but another tricky bit. Now I've got to plumb the wastegate back into here, and then do the tailpipes. So there's not actually that much left to do, in that all honesty. That is everything tacked up. Well, the final bit is tacked up and welded, apart from the tailpipes. I always do the tailpipes at the very end, because obviously there's shrinkage in welding. And although there's a lot of room around everything else, well, not a lot of room, but there is enough room to absorb some shrinkage in all these areas. The tailpipes are the most obvious, so we do that last. There's not really too much to say other than do your close-ups, Andrew, and zoom in and all your bits and pieces, and then I'll weld it. And then you can put a 7 psi spring in the wastegate for me, so that it doesn't just melt its pistons and immediately as soon as it leaves the workshop. And then I've got to do the intake pipe, boost pipe, which is about that long, so it's not too much of a thing. And that's job done from us here. Yeah. This is the final result. This is all finished. Tailpipes are in place, 2.5 inch tailpipes each side. 2 nice big silencers. Hopefully it shouldn't be too loud. I won't get to hear that though. We might be able to get someone to send us a sound clip so we can put that in at the end of the video maybe. With a bit of luck. Here's the rest of the system. Just one small component left to link the whole system together, and that is the boost pipe. And this is the final piece, the boost pipe, which is a very tiny, the smallest boost pipe you've ever seen. Originally this was a straight line, but obviously this is a slightly larger turbo. We've had to put such a little kink in it. And that is the final piece to the puzzle, and our job here with the Ferrari done.